I'm Adam, this is Holly. We have 5 kids, and 7 years ago we had no idea even what autism was. In that time, 2 of our children have been diagnosed with autism. So in this video we're going to dive into what exactly is autism. We're going to talk to a doctor, Dr. Spendlove. He was actually on the team that helped standardize the ADOS-2 test, which is the gold standard for autism.
Yeah, and in this video we're going to share some home videos of Ezra and Simon. So Ezra is our 7-year-old. He's been diagnosed with level 3 autism, and in the video you'll find out really what that means. And Simon, our 3-year-old, has been diagnosed with level 1 autism.
That's good. Yeah, I didn't understand that. Learned a lot. Yeah.
So please tell us today, what even is autism?
Great. Yeah. So autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder. What that means is it's a disorder that's housed in the brain beginning from birth. Okay?
You think that maybe they zapped his brain while he was locked up?
What autism is made up of 3 main symptom categories. And the thing about these symptom categories is that they all have to be present at all times. From there emanates the spectrum of autism. Reciprocal social interaction skills deficits, reciprocal social communication skills deficits. And the third is restricted repetitive behaviors or odd or unusual interests, which can include sensory things, okay? And so with deficits in speaking, interacting, and having odd or unusual behaviors, these are the 3 main categories of autism.
So that would explain her stumbling and the odd behavior.
And from that, we can diagnose autism spectrum disorder. The first diagnostic criteria has to do with these first 2, which is reciprocal social communication skills. So reciprocity means the back and forth of communication. I say something, you find it interesting, you say something back, we create a conversation that can go on for hours sometimes, right?
This conversation is admissible.
That's reciprocal social communication. And the second piece of that is reciprocal social interaction. It's hard to have a conversation without also interacting, right? And so social skills in terms of the ability to pick up on the nuances of social behavior. Like if I'm saying something to you you're not interested in, your brow's gonna furrow.
Yeah,
and your eyes might glaze over.
Watch his eyes glaze over, but I don't know.
And you might scratch your neck.
Mm-hmm. And you should notice that. And you're like, okay, this is awkward.
We don't have to talk about that, right?
Yeah, recognizing an awkward situation.
Right.
So speaking of awkward situations, we'd like to invite you to subscribe to our channel.
We post daily of our unique normal. 2 years ago, we sold our home and we moved into an RV and traveled to all the national parks with our 5 kids. You can check that playlist out here.
It's a spectrum because the way a person with autism expresses these 3 symptom categories varies widely, but at the base of it, everybody who has autism must have all these 3 things. And it has to begin in the early developmental period, which means before 5 and usually before 3. And that's because the brain of a child with autism, that section of the brain that is supposed to help us with the social and the communicative stuff, is not developing like other people are developing. These 3 symptom categories, which I call the pillars of autism, must be in place. Now let's talk about this related things too, because sometimes kids don't talk very well. They have a delay in speech, but they are interacting and they're void of these other unusual behaviors. One of the 3 doesn't make autism. You can also have 2, right? You can have a kid who's not talking well and shies away and doesn't know how to interact with other people, but he's not engaging in these restricted repetitive behaviors. That is also not autism. And when we diagnose it, that's what it's called, autism spectrum disorder. And under that, we specify what kind of autism it is. There's 4 specifiers that we try to include each time. There's others we can include too, but the 4 that we usually include are about severity and development.
Okay, so tell us what the different levels of autism are. Like I always hear like someone has severe autism or someone has mild autism, or like, oh, my child's level 3 or my child's level 2. So from a professional perspective, what does that all mean and what kind of language should we be using?
When we talk about severity in autism, we don't have mild, moderate, severe nomenclature in the diagnostic realm. Okay, because it's not about how bad the child is. The severity is how much the child will need assistance to improve in certain areas. It's a focus on treatment rather than a focus on the symptoms. With autism, once they've met criteria for autism, we know they have it. What we have to focus on is how to help them improve functional skills. And so the levels system refers back to the diagnostic label where we have autism spectrum disorder, and the first two descriptions underneath the diagnosis are how much help they're going to need in reciprocal social communication and how much help they'll need with restricted repetitive behaviors.
Okay.
And it's all about semantics. It's requiring support, which is level 1, requiring substantial support, which is level 2, and requiring very substantial support, which is level 3. Okay, so you can have a child who is not speaking at all without words or even vocalizations, because pre-verbal language like grunting and cooing and babbling is good. And if they're not doing that at all, we'd say they need very substantial support in social communication. Okay, so that's a level 3. Level 2 would be like, I babble but I don't use words. And level 1 would be like, I use words but I'm not very conversant and reciprocal in my use of words. And there's not as big of a hill to climb to get them to be functional in making requests like, I want more, I need to use the potty, I need to do these things, right? The other one is about restricted repetitive behaviors. And this one really describes the same thing, requiring support, substantial support, or very substantial support. And what it describes is how much these restricted repetitive patterns of behavior, odd or unusual sensory interests, how much they are interfering with the child's ability to interact, right? And so if I'm doing an assessment with a kid and for the entire time he is not going to do anything I ask him to do because he just wants to find all the circles or the things that move in circular fashion, that's very disruptive to my ability to interact with him, which will also disrupt treatment. So when we talk about levels of autism, it refers to those two things. So there's not one specifier of level. Now, that's clinically. That's how we do it in the office. When you leave this office and people talk about it in community settings and they want to talk about it with their friends and family, the language that should be used is whatever you feel. It's not anybody's business what your child's diagnosis is. So what you want to share is what you want to share. And if you want to say, he's got mild because you understand that he needs help more in speaking than he does with the restricted repetitive, that's okay to say. It won't be found in a diagnostic report, but it's okay for you to describe how you wish to describe it. The hang-up that happens is that people will use the words they use because they've heard other people use them, and there's this feeling that it's a legitimate, actual diagnostic label. It's not, but you can use it, right? Because that's how we make sense of the world around us. It's how you're trying to make sense of what your child has. I don't ever tell parents, oh, you should not say that, because I don't live with it. It's not in my house, right? And it's something that if it helps you cope, then use it. But diagnostically, level 1, level 2, level 3 is all about how much support they'll need to improve.
That makes sense. So how probable is it that a child will get one level label, that'll be their label and their diagnosis, and then it'll change as they grow up?
It's highly probable. Autism spectrum disorder will be on the chart forever. We want to improve their social communication, so they drop from level 3 to level 2 to level 1.
Sir, I am fluent in 6 million forms of communication.
We want to help improve their ability to put down the circles and the things that interest them to be able to request and interact more. So that's how we decrease levels of restricted repetitive behaviors from 3 to 2 to 1. And then the other two, with accompanying intellectual impairment and with accompanying language impairment, those two things are also the goals of treatment. We aren't going to say, this is mild autism. I'll say, this is autism spectrum disorder, level 2 in communication, level 1 in restricted repetitive, and whatever that is. And what I often tell families is the goal is to be at level 1 in both of those. Autism with level 1 communication and level 1 restricted repetitive is a child who's functioning quite well, which we in our communities say high functioning autism, right? Which is fine. Use that nomenclature as much as you want after you get the diagnostic label. Using it before the diagnosis is precarious because it might be incorrect. Yeah, there's clinical words and then there's words of the community or colloquial words, right? I don't have any authority over what the community wants to say about it. It's great. If you're talking about it in a way that is helpful for individuals and families who have the autism in their families.
And still respectful.
And be respectful about it. That is the best way to talk about it. But if we want to talk about it in pejorative, dismissive, comparative ways, there's danger in that. Danger to make a family feel less than successful when they've made lots of success with their child. Again, the highest functioning kid with autism is level 1 without.
That's good. Yeah, I didn't understand that. Learned a lot. Yeah. So make sure to check out this video here about the causes of autism.
And our doctor playlist is here with more educational videos from Dr. Spendlove.